Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Verses 10 to 14, please.
Nadveshtya kushalam karma kushalena Tyagi sattva samavishtaha medhavi chinna samshayaha nahi deha bhrita shakyam tyaktum karmanya sheshataha yastu karma phalatyagi satyagi tyabhidhiyate Anishtamishtam mishram cha trividham karmana phalam bhavatyattyaginam pretya natu sannyasinam kvachit panchaitani mahabaho karanani nibodhame Sankhye kritante proktani siddhaye sarva karmanam adhishtanam tatha karta karanam cha prithagvidham vividhascha prithak cheshtaha daivam chaivatra panchamam.
What you see in the screen, we discussed yesterday, is a summary of the topics that we will be studying. And yesterday we talked about the difference between sannyasa, renunciation, and tyaga, relinquishment. To refresh your memory, relinquishment is of fruit or anxiety to get results. That is what you need to relinquish, not action. And renunciation is a state that one reaches when you are free from desire-ridden action. Now, how does that compare to what an average human would do? Everybody, as we said yesterday, is born with desires. In fact, when a baby is born, it is nothing but an expression of vasanas. Vasanas means unmanifest desires. So as the baby grows into a young person, you find that the desires start manifesting. You know, you want to do this. The child is inclined to do certain things, is disinclined to do other things. So this is something you notice as the child grows. From where do these qualities come from? It's an expression of one's own vasanas. Vasanas, unmanifest desires. Now, from where do vasanas come from? Where does a person get these vasanas from? Where do you get your vasanas from? How come you have these qualities? It comes from your own past actions, feelings, and thoughts. So we all have feelings, we all have thoughts, and each one of us is acting from morning till night, every single day. Even right now, you're performing an action. What sort of an action are you performing? It could be A grade, B grade, C grade, right now. when you leave this classroom, you will continue to act, and this goes on throughout your life. So your life is nothing but a consequence. Where are you now? What is your life now? Is all a consequence of whatever you have done this day backward, as far back as you can go. All your actions, all your feelings, all your thoughts put together bring about what you are facing in life right now. So that is what you're expressing throughout your life. But what we are told, what the Shastras tell us, what the scripture is telling us, what the Bhagavad Gita is telling us, is that every human has the ability to discover his essential nature, her essential nature. In fact, I don't know how many of you are familiar. The first word in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita starts with the word, does anybody know? Dharma. Dharma is the first word in the first verse, in the first chapter. That's how the Bhagavad Gita starts. Dharma kshatriya Kurukshetra. It starts that way. And the last word in the last verse, in the last chapter, ends with mama. So it seems as if the entire Gita, the philosophy of the Gita, is sandwiched between these two words, dharma, mama. And you can draw a significance from it, which we have discussed many times in this classroom. That's why I get answers from you. But for the benefit of those who are not familiar, this is very important, this term, dharma mama. Because I did say that the scripture, the Bhagavad Gita, is trying to tell us something about our own lives, which is what we are examining right now. And that is, you are given this opportunity called life. That's every one of us. And we all have equal opportunity to use this life for what? You can do anything you want. But the most important obligation that each one of us has is to find out, who are you? Who am I? Why am I born a human being? We're not animals, we're not plants, they also have lives. So what is so special about being a human? And like we saw briefly yesterday, you could be a great achiever. You could find many things to do in life now. You could get name or fame or money, position, status, recognition, family, friends, whole lot of things you may have achieved by now, which is commendable. But, you know, we miss reading the fine print. The fine print in all these endeavors that we are so engaged in, so involved in, so carried away by the achievements of what we do in life. None of it comes with us. That's what we clean miss. Not whatever you have achieved in this lifetime, you leave it behind. And then, what do you have to take? Is there anything we take with us when we go? The only thing that will faithfully accompany you is one of two: your knowledge or your ignorance of the truth. We're not talking about the knowledge of business or medicine or any other worldly subject. We're talking about the knowledge of your own self. And that is why it is so important to find out, what is this truth? What is this reality? Who am I? Besides knowing anything about yourself, who are you in essence? And that is where these two terms come in, dharma, mama. So, dharma is a Sanskrit word. If you look up the dictionary, it runs into several pages. The explanation, it's applicable in so many ways, dharma. But for our purposes, we're defining it because it's in reference to context. Dharma is that which makes a thing what it is, without which a thing is not what it is. I know you're totally confused. I can see it from your faces. But don't worry, it's not that difficult. If you understand what is being said, it's so simple. I did say, I'm repeating, dharma is that which makes a thing what it is, without which a thing is not what it is. Example, what would you say makes sugar what it is, without which sugar is not what it is? Anybody? Sweetness, right? Sweetness makes sugar what it is. Without sweetness, sugar is not what it is. So in other words, you can never have a sample of bitter sugar. Not possible. Why? That is not its dharma. So sweetness makes sugar what it is. Without sweetness, sugar is not what it is. Dharma of sugar is sweetness. Similarly, the dharma of fire is heat. Take away heat, there is no fire. That is the essential quality aspect of fire, heat. The essential nature of sugar is sweetness. Take that away, there is no sugar. Take away heat, there is no fire. You cannot have a sample of cold fire. Not possible. That is not its dharma. Now friends, keeping this in mind, we've got to ask ourselves, who am I? What am I? Or you would say, I am so-and-so. I come from this family. I come from this background. This is my wife. This is my husband. These are my children. This is my family name. These are factors about you. Take away all of that. You stand alone as a human being. No other connections. And then ask yourself, who am I? Then you would look at yourself in the mirror and say, this person, this height, this weight, I'm just a human. That is just your species. You're not an animal, you're not a plant, you're a human. But who is this human? What are you? At best, we can come down to certain basics. We say, look, I have a physical personality, which you can say, this is what we are concerned with almost all day, the physical personality. When you look at somebody, you're looking at the physical personality. But that's not you. The physical personality that you have is just an outer aspect of you, like a vehicle that's taking you from place to place. So who's you? What's you? I've got something in me, you would say rightly. My feelings, my thoughts. That is your inner personality, no doubt. And each one's inner personality is constituted of two faculties, manas and buddhi, mind and intellect. So when you say, what is the mind? The mind is nothing but the sum total of all your feelings, all your impulses, your wishes, your wants, your desires, your demands, your likes, your dislikes. All that put together is anybody's mind. And in the case of a human, superior to the mind, subtler than the mind, more powerful than the mind, is a unique ability, and that is the capacity to think, to reason, to understand, to know, to judge. And that is termed as buddhi, intellect. Now, oftentimes people mistake the intellect for just intelligence. You know, you go into schools and universities, you pick up degrees, or you become successful because of intelligence. But that doesn't mean you have an intellect. When you develop an intellect, which is the capacity to think, you can only do it when you have higher values of life. That's why we introduce these thoughts. It should be introduced, at least in this country at one time it was done. At the age of 8, from the age of 8, the children understood, or they were taught these values. And then you have a strong foundation in your personality. You can build your personality when you live in this world. Otherwise, you could be carried away with anything that the world offers. See, the world is full of distractions, full of attractions. And nothing wrong with the world. You should know how to contact the world. The world will be what it is. And there's plenty to help yourself with in the world. But how do you contact the world? That contact, what value do you give to what the world offers you, will depend on how you build your own character, your own personality. The famous basketball coach from California, he's no more now, but a very famous quote and a very good idea that he gives is, he says, ability can take you to the top, but it takes character to keep you there. See, with all your intelligence, you can rise to the top. But what will help you maintain that is character. And character is built with your intellect and values. You could have an intellect, but you could be planning the destruction of somebody else. You could be negative with your thinking. But when you build your intellect with values of life, higher values of life, you've got character. And when you have character, you can maintain your success throughout. And this is practical wisdom. Everybody wants success. But how do you get it? How do you get to the top? Of course, intelligence you need to get there. But with the intellect and higher values, you develop character, and that will help you stay there. So, coming back to this state of finding out who you essentially are, that is the state of sannyasa. Sannyas doesn't mean you give up. In fact, the state of sannyas, anyone can achieve. You don't have to take up ochre robes. It's not your attire that qualifies you for the state of sannyas. It's not your address that qualifies your status of being a sannyasi. It is your mental attitude. In other words, renunciation is a state where you mature, where you grow into higher values, as a result of which the value that you have for other things drops. Not your business. Business doesn't drop. Your profession doesn't drop. Your family doesn't drop. Your interests don't drop. But the value drops. Just as, I know some of you may be wondering, but I don't want to drop the value. I love my money. I love my enjoyment. I love my holidays. I don't want to drop. It's like what happened to you when you were a child. Everybody in this classroom played with toys. But are you still doing it? Even as I'm saying, it's absurd. What do you mean? But everyone at one stage in life was so involved with the toy world. Everything was toys. You couldn't live without your toys because your values were there with the toys. You had no knowledge of anything beyond toys. And then as you grew up, you find that your interests changed. The toys were dropped. You picked up other things. Maybe you'd love to go on a cycle. You know, you got the thrill of riding a cycle or a bike or, I don't know, some other interest that you picked up. The toys were dropped. You picked up other interests. And then you don't ever go back to the toys because you've grown out of it. This is called refinement. This is called growth, maturity. Now these stages in life, everybody goes through. So from toys you pick up other activities. It could be your sport. You love your sport. You get involved with some sport or music. Many people are here, but many people have gone to the other side. because there's music there. So if you're interested in music, you would go there. Now you get involved in that. We're not saying it's right or wrong. It's another value. And then you come to a state where you have to find something to do in life. You set yourself in business or profession or something. And then you're completely involved in that business or profession or whatever your achievements are. And then comes family. Most people stop there. So from toys to other playthings and sport and activities and friends, you move up, and then you find a thing to do in life. Business or profession or charity or social work or arts, whatever you're interested, and then it comes to family. You set up a family, now you have to take care of that family. Whether it's children and it even goes to grandchildren, that will be your interest. Most people stop there because there's nothing more to look for. The starting point of the Gita is what's beyond. Okay, you've come up to this point, nothing wrong with it. But do you think this is a finality? There's far more you need to know about life. This is just a beginning. So don't stop here. Investigate, find out what is that truth? What is that reality? And if some of you here say, look, all this is very well, but you know what? I'm not interested. I'm just not interested. I'm okay. I've come here to pick up a few ideas and I go back to my life. Please remember one little example may perhaps give you a better insight what the Gita is trying to tell us. In fact, all masters have tried to say the same thing. But it's only a few people who get the message. And perhaps those few are here. I don't know. I'm giving you another example. I know many familiar faces who have heard this example before, but like I said, it's for the benefit of those who have not heard this example, because it will help you understand the importance of this investigation that we are doing right here. Imagine a coiled spring. Are you with me? Okay. Imagine a coiled spring 4 feet high. If I compress it to 1 foot, what do you think is happening to my palm? People who have not heard it, please. There is a pressure, right? Urging my palm which way? Up. Please note, there is a pressure urging my palm only one way, no other direction, up. So I release it to 2 feet. What happens then? There is less pressure. 3 feet, still less pressure. Now I release it to 4 feet. What happens at 4 feet? We are all in it together. Okay? So coil spring 4 feet high, compressed to 1 foot, tremendous pressure, maximum pressure, urging it only one way, up. I release it to 2 feet, less pressure, 3 feet, still less pressure, 4 feet, no pressure. The question is, why is there no pressure at 4 feet? Why? It has reached its original state. It's a simple example, very simple, but if you keep it in your mind, it will speak to you, this example. When it is at 4 feet, there is absolutely no pressure because, for one reason, it has reached its natural state. Period. And as long as it's not in its natural state, there will be pressure. It's a question of more or less. This is the point you have to note. Now, friends, please apply this to yourself. Everyone has pressures. Who is there free of pressure? Some sort of stress or strain or worry or anxiety or concerns. You may give it different names. Whatever you say, there is something working on your mind all the time. And of course, you've got your fingers ready to point at somebody or something that is bothering you. And you believe by setting that right, everything will be okay. And you do feel a relief when it's set right. But what you don't understand is immediately something else happens that bothers you. How long are you okay? For a period of time, and then it comes back. This restlessness will never leave you as long as you're not in your original state. That's what we're trying to say. So, you keep this in mind, and what we're trying to do here is to find that truth, that reality, which is your real personality. Dharma mama. That's how we started this evening. So, you know about your physical body, which is your outer personality. You know a little bit about your inner personality. In fact, what we are going to be discussing, hopefully by the end of the 4th session, we will have it put up on the screen, a chart by which you can trace your own inner personality. You know yourself better. It's a good chance. That's the study now. In fact, tomorrow and the day after, we'll be doing it in far more detail. So, that inner personality is constituted of your mind and intellect. But beyond the outer and inner personality, within you lies your real personality. What is that real personality? That is your original state. So, the study is going to help you get to your original state. You don't have to give up anything. You carry on in your life doing your swadharma activity. Like Krishna was telling Arjuna, you've got to do your bounden duty. But all that you have to change is your attitude. And why should you change your attitude? Because you can function at an optimum level. Take away the retarding forces. The retarding forces of attachment. You get bound to what you're doing. You get involved in what you're doing as if it were an end in itself. Whatever you be doing, whether it's domestic or social or official, whatever activities you're doing, these are all means to an end. That's not an end in itself. That's how you've got to view all the roles that you are performing in life. And if you have the right attitude in what you do, you will never get attached, nor will you be anxious for results. So you've got your whole personality functioning, you will be successful. And at the same time, because you are investing your time to find your own self, you will be peaceful. The more you move towards your original state, the more peaceful you will be, irrespective of what is going on around you. So there are a few thinkers who have given the same ideas I'm going to share with you before we get on to what we have to discuss today. Ramona Anderson, American, says, people spend a lifetime searching for happiness, looking for peace. They chase idle dreams, addictions, religions, even other people, hoping to fill the emptiness that plagues them. The irony is, the only place they needed to search was within. So you keep searching for things around you, you're never going to find it. The only place that you can find real happiness or peace is within you. When you find your original state, that's when you will be peaceful. An Englishman, Samuel Johnson, now he puts it in a slightly different manner, but a similar thought. The fountain of content must spring up in the mind. And he who had so little knowledge of human nature as to seek happiness by changing anything but his own disposition will waste his life in fruitless efforts and multiply the grief he proposes to remove. So if you change anything around you, you could still do it, not with the hope of finding peace. Because unless you are prepared to change yourself, you will never find that peace or happiness. So these are the thoughts you've got to keep in mind. It's not some strange philosophy coming from an ancient wisdom. It's practical philosophy that each one of us has to apply in our day-to-day life. And that's how we get to the state of sannyasa. It is a state of maturity, of understanding, and you're able to function in the world. It's like, to put it in business terms, it's like putting two executives in one chair. And what are you doing now? Now you're not even putting one executive in one chair. You're putting 40% of your personality there. In fact, in the seminars that we have, which is not the scope of discussion here, we can actually prove to your satisfaction, coming from you, that nobody is putting in their whole personality. And this is the consensus we get all over the world. It's not Indians. Americans say the same thing, English say the same thing, Australians say the same thing, Africans say the same thing, that nobody is putting in their full personality. Because your mind is always agitated about something. So we are saying, hey, look, take out those retarding forces. Once you take off the roadblocks, you've got your full personality available. And if you bring in your full personality, how then will you not be successful? Now you're not able to do it, and that is what we're trying to analyze and find out. Not to get into that groove where you're unable to bring in your full personality into play. So the three qualities that we discussed yesterday, if you remember, that's how we concluded. And every human is a necessary combination of three gunas. And why is each person different from the other? Not only in this classroom, throughout the world. Everyone is different. Even if you have twins, identical twins, they have different set of vasanas. They're different, distinct. You know, this person, this child behaves like that, that child behaves in the another way. Why is that so? What is the reason each human is different from the other? Because of the combination of these three gunas. Meaning, how much of sattva do you have? How much of rajas? How much of tamas? And no one is free of all three gunas, except a self-realized soul. Guna atita. He's gone beyond gunas. A God-realized master, an enlightened person, someone who has gained nirvana. Such individuals, masters, prophets, souls have gone beyond the gunas. Until that point, everyone is subject to, is made up of all three gunas. Now, your life will depend on the qualities that you possess. Sattva is that quality when your mind is calm, composed, serene, equanimous, contemplative, reflective, mature. You stand tall in the face of any challenge. That's the character that you will have when you have sattva, predominantly sattvic. That's why it comes later in this chapter. The caste system is highly criticized. I'm not saying it is right. People believe the caste system is a birthright. What the ancient thinkers did, they only divided society intelligently according to gunas. And they tried to preserve the gunas. You know, when you talk about thoroughbred, even dogs, you talk about it should be thoroughbred. Why? Because the qualities are maintained. You don't think so? People go for thoroughbred dogs, you know, animals, you don't crossbreed them because they maintain the qualities. They preserve those qualities. There is a reasoning for that. I'm not saying we should do it for human beings. I'm only saying that there is a reason why they preserved these qualities. They did not intermingle because the chances of keeping those qualities was high. Risk was low. That's about all. But that doesn't mean you take it beyond its scope, which is why that whole system has failed, the caste system. So what they did is, those who are predominantly sattvic, they call them the brahmana class. They're thinkers. They were the planners. They were the visionaries because they had this inclination to think. That was their main interest. Then when sattva fell and rajas picked up, they were called the kshatriyas, where not only could they think, but now they wanted to act and protect the people. They had ideas where they wanted to implement it. They were not so much into research and understanding. So you have the scientists who are confined to research laboratories. Then you have those who say, hey, this should go out to the people. Why not we do it? So the other set of people will bring it out and help people. So there is a vision, but there's more action. Those were the kshatriyas. Then there was another class of people who were more inclined to activity. We've got to use this talent for something. We've got to get the best out of this. They were thinking more about business, making money all the time. The vaishyas. Where sattva kept dropping and rajas picked up. Rajas is desire-ridden. You want to achieve things. You want to prove things. That is a typical quality of the vaishyas. And then when sattva were in traces, rajas also, they're not inclined to act, but tamas was predominant, they were called the shudras. Shudras meaning people who were not inclined to think, who were not inclined to act. They had to be forced to do things, otherwise they couldn't take care of themselves. They would neglect themselves. And they were you could say, a class of people who had to be forced to do things in society. We're not saying this is the right thing. We are only saying why they brought that up, so that entire range of people, different qualities in people, could still be managed on a large scale and maintain society properly. So all based on these three gunas: sattva, rajas, tamas. Now, what is interesting is, we did say just now that all of us are combinations of all three gunas. So now, you will be, at some times, you are a very sensible person. At other times, you get into desires. You get into frenzied activity. That's all. Sometimes without even understanding. Once a husband and wife had a big quarrel. And the wife was so mad at the husband. She said, you get out of this house, and packed his bags and showed him the door to leave the house. And then as he was leaving, I hope you really suffer, you never have a peaceful time, and you go to hell. He turned around and said, hey, make up my mind. You're asking me to go and then you're asking me to come back to hell? Make up your mind. Now what, you may not have meant it, but what makes you say such things? What makes you get angry? What makes you do certain things? It's not sattva. It's either rajas or tamas. So in your own case, you could be doing things at times which you say, I don't know why I did that, but I did it. I'm not proud of it, but I did it. What makes you do it is the lower qualities. What makes you think about it as incorrect is the higher quality. So what we're trying to do here is locate these qualities. And then what do? You have a choice. You're a human being. You have a choice to convert the lower into the higher, and that's the way to go and become a complete human, a full human. Qualify yourself to seek and find the truth. That's the way to go for a human being. So where we left off yesterday is the sattvic quality in relinquishment, where you don't give up your action, but you give up the retarding forces in your action. We continue today. 9th verse.
Na dveshya kushalam karma kushalena anushajyate tyagi sattva samavishtaha medhavi chinna samshayah na dveshya kushalam karma kushalena anushajyate त्यागी सत्त्व समाविष्टः मेधावी छिन्न संशयः.
The Tyagi relinquisher does not hate desirable action, disagreeable action, nor is he attached to agreeable one, being pervaded by sattva, purity, intelligent, and his doubts cut asunder. So he's only now further describing a person who is predominantly sattvic. What will Tyaga in such a person be? He says, such a Tyagi, he does not hate. Now, first of all, he acts in this world with pleasure and enthusiasm, ready to face any challenge. He doesn't run away when he has to face a challenge. He stands tall and faces it. That he does is objective. He fulfills his obligations, and he's never a victim. He's never a victim of any circumstance, even the most difficult. He says, it's just another challenge. That is his attitude. Like a sportsman takes to sport. So the greater the opponent, greater the strength of the opponent, greater the interest in the game. Because he knows, I've got to defeat this guy. He's really got stuff. And to show your own talent. That's the attitude of a sportsman. That's a similar attitude a Tyagi has. And he's not attached, not involved. We've already seen that. When agreeable things come, he doesn't hold on to it because he knows sometimes things work out the way you want it. Sometimes it doesn't. So what? Take it as it comes. And he does not hate or avoid unpleasant obligations. Such a person has high qualities. And what are they? He says he's full of purity, meaning he has no selfish, self-centered feelings. He's always working in the interest of a larger circle. It could be the organization, it could be the family, it could be the country. Whatever you're working for, you care more for that than yourself. That is your ideal in life. And then he says, Medhavi. He's not stupid. He's very alert. He's very smart. He's very intelligent. He knows how to connect two and two. He knows how to connect all the dots and get a clear picture of who he's dealing with and how to deal with it. And then he says, he has no doubts, has extreme clarity. So these are the qualities one will develop if you have sattvic relinquishment. And he continues.
नहि देह भृता शक्यं त्यक्तुं कर्माण्यशेषतः यस्तु कर्मफलत्यागी सत्यागीत्यभिधीयते न हि देहभृता शक्यं त्यक्तुं कर्माण्यशेषतः यस्तु कर्मफलत्यागी सत्यागीत्यभिधीयते.
Verily, it is not possible for the embodied to relinquish actions totally. But he who relinquishes fruit of action is called Tyagi. I don't know if you're following. We've already covered all this in the introduction because it becomes easier for you to understand the flow of thought as the verses go on. So he's only saying that it is not possible for the embodied, dehabhrit, meaning one who has vasanas, desires. Everybody has vasanas, desires. So none of us can relinquish actions. Act you must. Act you will. You're helpless. Even a grand old person who has gone through life, gone through experiences in life, is still not free. He's got desires. Unfulfilled desires. Now the body is not cooperating. But his desires are there. That's why it gets frustrating. See, why do we keep saying, keep yourself fit, keep yourself fit? Because you've got desires. You need a body to express the desires. And if you don't keep yourself fit, the desires are pressurizing you, but the body is unable to express. And that's why you get frustrated, you get angry, you get suppressed. Whose fault is it? See, before we start the talks, we have a mantra, a verse that we chant. Om Sahana Vavatu, Sahana, all of you, I think many of you chant that. It's called a peace invocation, just an invocation. And we need to do that only to gather our thoughts. And towards the end we say, Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. The last Shanti is very soft because we are appealing to nature to keep peace because we are engaged in this activity of learning, gaining knowledge. And then we appeal to the environment. In the good old days, in the environment there could be snakes, there could be scorpions, there could be something crawling around. So they're just saying, may there be peace, let them not disturb us when we are studying. In the modern context, we have to say, may a mobile phone not ring. May somebody not get up and walk away, or suddenly comes in late. These are the external disturbances, because it's very strange how important it is to keep your mind peaceful, to receive knowledge. If somebody walks in or walks out a little late, many heads will turn. Now, I don't understand why, because you're not going to help that person, you're not connected with that person, but why does the head turn? Because there's no Shanti inside. See, if you have peace, you are not concerned, unless there's a fire or something has happened, then you're concerned, you have to leave the room. But if somebody is walking in or somebody is walking out, how does it concern us? It will almost be a test. We're not going to do it. But imagine a, Bollywood actor walks in. I hope nobody comes. We're not experimenting. But it will be a test for your state of mind. If he walks in, or she walks in, somebody walks in, how many of you can still concentrate? Ask yourself. See, that should be your inner personality, focused. Because if you have come here to listen, does that person's entry or exit change what you are focused on? It doesn't. It has no connection. Yet you will connect. This is what we're saying. So there are so many desires in you. It goes out. The mind goes wherever the desires are. If you have no desire for certain aspects of life, anybody can walk in, walk out, you will not be concerned. So since he's saying it is not possible for the embodied to relinquish actions because you have desires, totally. You cannot give it up. And you're not recommended to do it because you cannot. But what you can do is relinquish the anxiety, not the fruit. Of course, you need to have a goal. Otherwise, why would you act? You want to achieve something. Without the fruit, without the goal, nobody will act. But when you are acting, don't let that fruit come and disturb you. That's all he's saying. Because if the mind is disturbed, you're not focused. Just as if somebody walks in and you're distracted, you've missed the flow. You've lost something. You can never pick it up. This you may not be concerned. So what? So many words are going. If possible, I'll pick it up. If not possible, I don't pick it up. The attitude could be casual in this classroom. But you will miss out a lot of things that you want to do in your life if you don't learn to focus your attention on what you want to achieve. So that fruit is something, that anxiety for the fruit is something we can relinquish if we understand the value of action. And he continues.
Anishtamishtam mishram cha trividham karmanah phalam bhavatyatyyaginam pretya natu sannyasinam kvachit Anishtamishtam mishram cha trividham karmanah phalam bhavatyatyyaginam pretya natu sannyasinam kvachit.
The threefold, desirable, undesirable, and mixed fruit of action accrues to non-relinquishers, are tyagis, but never the renunciates, sannyasis. So what he's saying is, one is affected when you meet agreeable, good results, what you like. When you get what you like, naturally you'll be ecstatic, you'll be happy, you'll be joyful, you'll be on top of the world because you got what you wanted. And then if you don't get what you want, something disagreeable, bad, what you dislike, or something that you don't get, you worked so hard and you don't get it. Now that is going to affect you, it will put you down, you feel low, you feel depressed, you feel unhappy. And then sometimes it's a mediocre result. You can't say you didn't get it, you can't say you got it, you're somewhere in between. You're not fully satisfied, you're not completely disappointed. So he says, mishram, mixed fruit. So these are the possibilities for those who have not risen above this desire-ridden actions. I'm repeating, we all have desires. And as long as we have desires, we will be acting in the world. You cannot avoid that. That's what he said in the previous verse. But if you follow the disciplines, we've not got there yet, but if you follow a disciplined life, whatever that is, pick up higher values as a result of which you are not a victim of these results. In other words, most people go through these fluctuations in life. One moment you're very happy because you got what you wanted. Another moment you're miserable because you lost what you had or you didn't get what you worked for. So these are the fluctuations everybody goes through. And you believe, what else is life? I got lucky, I got unlucky. There's no such thing as luck or bad luck. It's a result of whatever you have done in life. Whatever you are experiencing in life, in fact, each one has to take responsibility of his own life, her own life. You have made yourself what you are, not the circumstance, not the people around you. You're happy? Well, you made yourself so. You're unhappy? You made yourself so, nobody else. And you will never understand that unless you realize that your life, your personality right now is a result of all that you have done this day backward. So you can't change your destiny today. Destiny is what you are facing now from your past actions. But there is a law of karma. Karma means what you do from this day on, you will get the results in the future. So even if you've had a raw deal, if you've gone through something terrible, and that's what you're facing right now, it is an effect. Of what cause? Your own past, whatever that is. Now you have no control over the past. It's fait accompli, it's finished. But you are a producer of the future. So you can, with your own actions, today onwards, you can change your future. That is the life of a human being. Now no other creature can do it except a human. So these fluctuations, desirable, undesirable, and mixed, it is applicable for those who are not prepared to relinquish this anxiety and attachment. They are caught up in actions per se, not as a means to an end. But if you have a higher goal, a higher purpose, then as a sannyasi, remember we said sannyasa is a state where you're mature, where you've gained knowledge, where you're established in higher values of life. Like John Wooden said, if you want to stay there, you've got to have character. By now you build a character, then you don't get affected by these different effects of action. Next verse. Next two verses are taken together.
Panchaitani mahabaho karanani nibodha me sankhye kritante proktani siddhaye sarva karmanam adhishtanam tatha karta karanam cha pratagvidham विविधांश्च पृथक् चेष्टाः दैवं चैवात्र पञ्चमम्.
So these two verses are taken together because they're giving an idea which is similar. It's an analytical explanation or the anatomy of action. Now those who are not familiar, you don't have to worry about it because it's a kind of dissection into action. You don't have to be concerned about it, just know that there's so much that you need to know about a simple thing called action. We just keep acting. From morning till night we're performing actions. We don't know what we're doing. But here is an analysis of action. It's more a piece of information. So in the 13th verse he says, these 5 causes for accomplishment of all actions, learn from me, O Mahabaho. Remember we said when Krishna uses me, learn from the law. It's a law. It cannot change. Because it's poetry, he says, learn from me. But learn from the laws of life, which do not change with time or age. So what is given out in the Bhagavad Gita, or the scriptures for that matter, you could call, also refer to as Sanatana Dharma. Sanatana Dharma means eternal principles, eternal truths that do not change with time or age. If this knowledge was given out in the past because it gave out the truths, it's the same knowledge that we are trying to understand today because these are the truths of life. And the same knowledge will continue to be applicable to humanity in the future. Everything else can change. Your mode of life can change. Your lifestyles can change. Your interests in life can change. The world itself could change, but the principles of life and living will never change. These are permanent principles. As long as you are a human, you need to know them. That's why they are important to learn. So he says, learn from me means it's a law. O Mahabaho, Arjuna, as declared in Sankhya. Sankhya is just the philosophy of life and living. Another term for the Vedanta philosophy, which is the end of action. Meaning the goal of all your actions is to find the truth, which is what we're discussing so far. You've got an outer personality, you've got an inner personality, but the whole purpose of human life is to seek and find the real personality. So that is the end of all your actions. And then he says in the 14th verse, he goes a little technical. Like I said, don't worry, but just keep it in one part of your mind that there is so much that the Gita is teaching us about action. He says, the seat, body, doer, distinct types of instruments, distinct and various functions, and also Lord, capital L, Lord, the 5th here. So 5 constituents to accomplish action. The first 4 are matter. Matter, you understand, the physical body, this is matter. Science will tell you that. Also, your whole personality, whether it's your physical body, your mind or intellect, these are all matter vestures. When we say matter, it's very simple. Matter is changeable. Matter is perishable. That is matter. But the 5th Lord, the 5th there, is that which gives life to matter. That is apart from matter. In fact, every human is a necessary combination of matter plus the enlivening factor, the spirit in you, the God principle in you. Just as the bulb gives light. The bulb by itself has no light. Don't look at me like that. When you purchase a bulb, it doesn't glow when you bring it home. There is no light. But it has everything. It has the outer casing, it has the inner filament, it's got everything to give light, but there is no light. Why? Because that light-giving principle is not there. The moment it is in contact with electricity, instantly there is an expression of light. Similarly, every human, we are made up of matter vestures. This body has no life. If I cut this finger, it will lie here like any piece of wood or stone. But this body is expressing life because there is the fifth. There is the life-giving principle. So also with everyone, with all living beings, whether it's human race, the animal kingdom, or the plant kingdom, every aspect of nature is an expression of life. From where do all these various species get life from? The Lord Fifth. It's a common principle for all. Similarly, he says, the same principle is responsible for action. Just as all movement in all vehicles, in all cars, is because of fuel, petrol. I'm not referring to Tesla, whenever that comes. But apart from that, all vehicles, for now we can still use this example for some more generations. There may be a generation where there's no fuel. But up until then, we still need petrol, fuel, for all vehicles. Now, petrol is not responsible for an accident or safe driving to home. But without petrol, there would not have been an accident. If there was no petrol, the car would have stopped. No accident. The quality of action, petrol is not responsible, but it only enables the vehicle to move. Without fuel, the vehicle will not move. In a similar way, there are so many types of people, from a sinner to a saint, and all the people in between, grades and grades of goodness and badness. We don't know. But all are able to function because of the fifth. So all your actions that you're performing is because there is an enlivening principle which is a common denominator for both a sinner and saint. For animal, plant, human, all. It's just one common life-giving principle, which we don't know, which is just stated here as the fifth. And the day you come to know what that is, you gain enlightenment. You become a self-realized soul, a God-realized soul. That's why you have one Christ, or one Krishna, or one Muhammad, one Buddha, one Mahavira. You don't have them by the dozens. For a generation, one person comes out outstanding as an enlightened soul. But that capacity we all have, just that we don't use it. We are so busy, caught up in our lives here. We have no time for the fifth. But he's only indicating here. And what is it that it is enlivening? Adhishtanam, the physical body, like we said. Without this enlivening principle, this body will not have life. Karta, the actor, the doer. There is an indweller, an individual who says, these are my actions. I have done it. That's the actor there. And then you need instruments. You need a physical body. You need a mind. You need an intellect to be able to express yourself. Not only internal, you need external instruments to operate what we call the hardware. You need hardware. The physical body is like a hardware. And also different functions. He says distinct and various functions. One is different types of instruments and different types of functions. That is the software. You need hardware and software to be able to function. That's all he's saying. The software is how each instrument functions, whether it's internal or external. And that which enables everything to express itself is the fifth. So this is a dissection of action, and he continues in the same way.
शरीरवाङ् मनोभिर्यत् कर्म प्रारभते नरः न्यायं वा विपरीतं वा पञ्चैते तस्य हेतवः शरीरवाङ् मनोभिर्यत् कर्म प्रारभते नरः न्यायं वा विपरीतं वा panchaite tasya hetavah.
Whatever action a man performs by body, speech and mind, whether right or otherwise, these 5 are its causes. I don't know if you're getting the flow. First of all, he talks about the constituents of action and that there is an enlivening principle that enables one to act. And now he specifies causes. He further explains the source of action. He says, whatever action a human performs, in what way? Manaha, vang, sharira. Mind, speech, body. Meaning, thought, word, deed. Don't we say that? So you've got to be consistent in your thoughts, in your words, in your deeds. Then you achieve things. But if you're thinking one way, you talk another and act a third way, you're going in different directions. So he says, these are the causes of action. What are they? Mind, speech, body. Even mind, thought and word, these are subtle actions. And when you actually do something, it's a gross action. But they're different grades of action. And all he's saying here is, whatever you perform, whatever a human performs, whether it's thought, word or deed, right or wrong, whether the car meets with an accident or goes home safe, right or wrong, these are the 5 causes. You need a body, you need an actor, you need instruments, you need functions and the enlivening factor. So whatever you do, these are the constituents of action. He continues.
Tatraivam sati kartaram atmanam kevalam tu yah pashyatya krita buddhitvat na sa pashyati durmatihi. Tatraivam sati kartaram atmanam kevalam tu yah pashyatya krita buddhitvat na sa pashyati durmatihi.
Such being the case, verily he who due to undeveloped intellect sees the self alone as doer, he of imperfect judgment sees not. So now he's talking about those who are ignorant. The previous verse he's talking about those who understand this truth, that there are these 5 constituents. There is another analysis that you have thought, word, deed, but all this is possible because of the enlivening factor. Without the enlivening factor, nothing will function. See, cut off electricity. There will not be cooling in this room. There will not be light in this room. There will not be sound because of that one unifying entity, electricity, cut off. So there you could have various instruments. You could have different functions. The bulb gives light. The air conditioner gives cool air. This microphone gives sound. The functions are different. The instruments are different. It's used in different ways. The expressions are different. But there is one unifying principle that enables all of them to come and express in their own ways. So, he says, the ignorant people, such being the case, verily he who due to undeveloped intellect sees the self, again you see a capital S there, sees the self. Now whether you use the self, Atman, Brahman, these are Sanskrit words, or the God principle, the living principle in you, these are all synonyms. The truth in you, the reality in you, all these, or the simple word that is used throughout the world, God. We say God is responsible for everything. We say that, but we don't know what we mean. So whether you use any of these terms, they all mean the same thing. All he's saying is, when you don't understand the truth, you believe that God principle alone as the doer. He of imperfect judgment sees not. it would be a wrong understanding to attribute accident or safe driving to petrol. So in other words, if you've had an accident, you can't go to the petrol bunk and say, hey, what kind of petrol did you give me? Accident petrol? That fellow won't know what you're talking. Or you go home, when you reach home, you open the tank and say, thank you petrol to bring me home safe. That's what we do. We go to a mandir and say, thank you God for taking care of me because you found something. Something happened, very good thing happened. I will come to you, Lord, and shave my head off. That's what they do. They go all the way. I'm not saying you shouldn't do something you're doing. Instead of thinking about yourself, you're thinking about some higher principle. But to believe that that person somewhere sitting, I don't know what your idea is, or sitting behind that stone idol watching you come and go. And there are people, all kinds of beliefs. And I'm not ridiculing it. You got to question it. See, Krishna Jayanti, what do you do Krishna Jayanti? I don't know what you do in Delhi. But in other parts, they make all these sweetmeats. Any festival, what do you do? Two things. Eat and buy clothes. Socialize. Because that's the only time. You come home, I come home, you come home, I come home, and after the festival is over, I'm going on a diet because too many sweets I ate. This is the festival mood. That is not the meaning of a festival. Incidentally, Swamiji has also written a book. It's called The Symbolism of Hindu Gods and Rituals. Now, it's meant for non-Hindus also. Because it's like, why do people do certain things? Why does a lady wear a tilak? Now, that depends on the color of the sari that we wear. Match. You have to match it. We don't know why we do it. Even men, they wear a tilak. For what? It has a significance. I'm not going to the details, but it has a sense, a meaning. If you understand the meaning, you will know why you're putting the tilak. So similarly, why do we break a coconut in a temple? Why coconut? The youngster will come and ask, why don't we take, melon or something else? Why coconut? Nahi beta, but coconut is coconut, no? But why? You won't have an answer. So in that book it's explained, why do we light camphor in a mandir? And then there's a ritual. See, you can't do it. You take the coconut, take the flowers, take the camphor, and then give it to the pujari, who you pay. But you cannot touch it. He is the one who goes in and does whatever he has to do and gives you that broken coconut. Usually South India, they do it because they want to make chutney. That's the day they go to the temple. Because idli chutney, you need coconut. Break it and come home and make chutney. Why are we doing it? Why do we break? So these are all symbolic. So what we need to understand is the symbolism. And when you understand the symbolism, it becomes clear. It has meaning. See, like a national flag. You respect the nation. National flag is not the nation. Suppose you salute the flag and then do all the things that will destroy the nation. It has no meaning. The lady is so particular about the Mangal Sutra. Why? It's a sign of marriage. She will respect the Mangal Sutra. But then what does she do? Whole day long she's fighting with the husband. It doesn't go together. So you go to God and thank God. Thank you, God. God doesn't know what you're thanking Him for. Oh God, don't forget me. I shall break 100 coconuts. Every week I will come and break 100 coconuts. Please give me this. That's your prayer. As if whoever that be needs your prompting. And that too 100 coconuts. Whose coconuts? God's coconuts. From where did you get the coconuts? I bought it with my money. It's like, this whole process is, I come to your home one day, it is your birthday. And I come and say, you know what, can I borrow 1,000 rupees from you? Yes, sure. Suddenly I come and ask you and you don't want to say no. So you give me the 1,000 rupees. And can I also have an envelope, please? So you give the envelope. Then I put the 1,000 rupees into the envelope and say, happy birthday. That's exactly what we do when we go to a mandir and thank God. It is His, whatever is going on. It's when we say His, the principles, the laws function meticulously. You need not thank, you need not remind. Then what do you need to do? Just do what you ought to do. Without prefix, without suffix. Whatever your duties and obligations are, with a clear mind, with a sharp intellect, with good values, if you do what you ought to do, you don't have to worry about anything. But we keep on worrying, like the fellow who will sit on the pavement and ask the parrot. It's not only that. At the world level it's going on. What is that? Football, is it? The last World Cup. You know who they were consulting, which team will win? Octopus. That is old news. The last one is a pussycat. A cat. You don't believe me, put it. Here you are. Actually has some big shoes. Or tentacles, that's the octopus, to fill. The predecessor, Paul the octopus, became an international celebrity when at the 2010 World Cup, he correctly forecast the outcome of Germany's games and picked eventual winners, Spain. So the last match was, World Cup was 2018, was this wonderful cat. I don't know what the predictions were. You depend on these predictions for understanding your future. It's happening at the world level. That is why Swamiji had to write the book, Fall of the Human Intellect. This is nothing but a fall. Again, we're not criticizing. Are you suggesting that that brain is better than a human brain? Is that what we're saying? What are we saying here? Nobody thinks. And why do you accept? Because everybody is saying so, you must accept. Must be right. Numbers don't make a thing right. And if you are standing on truth alone, you're not wrong. But you're scared because you want support, you want numbers. See, a lion is alone, an eagle flies alone. It's a sheep who need to be in numbers. The weaker people need to be together. They want numbers. But if you are standing on truth, you stand alone, you won't feel lonely. But the trouble is to find the truth and be established in the truth. That's what we are talking about. So, such being the case, the ignorant, verily due to undeveloped intellect, sees the self as the doer. God principle is not doing anything. It only enables everyone to function. In other words, the same God principle or living principle, truth, reality, whatever you want to use, is in a sinner, enabling the sinner to perpetrate atrocities. The same living principles is in a saint, helping that person to give out, to perform selfless actions. The principle is the same, the actions are different. So if you attribute it to the self, to the truth, the truth, the God principle is the doer, he is of imperfect judgment. He doesn't see the truth. Continues.
यस्य नाहं कृतो भावः बुद्धिर्यस्य न लिप्यते हत्वापि स इमान् लोकान् न हन्ति न निबध्यते यस्य नाहं कृतो भावः बुद्धिर्यस्य न लिप्यते हत्वापि स इमान् लोकान् न हन्ति न निबध्यते.
Free from egoistic notion, he whose intellect is not tainted, even by killing these people he kills not, is not bound. Now, this is again with reference to context. Krishna is talking to Arjuna, who is a soldier. A soldier's duty is to fight the battle and perhaps kill. So this is what happens in a soldier's life. But he says, even though he is killing, he is not tainted by that action. Because he doesn't intend to kill. His intention is to fulfill his duties as a soldier, which happens to be killing. It doesn't make him a killer. He is different from a murderer. A fellow who intends to kill and hurt somebody is different from a soldier. But the action is the same. Killing is happening, but the intention changes the quality of action. See, if you are doubting what we're saying, he says, free from egoistic notions. See, when you are thinking of personal benefit, then that action becomes tainted and you are bound. You are bound to face the consequence of that action, per se, because you have attached yourself. There's an egoistic notion. I am the doer. This is for me. That will taint the action. That will bind you to that action. But if you are working for an ideal, not for personal egoistic reasons, you're working for an ideal and you perform that action for a higher cause, you remain free. You're not bound. That is why no action can be judged per se. You can't say, these actions are good, these actions are bad. I'll give you an example. A man puts a knife into another man's body. As a result, the other man dies. Is this a good action or a bad action? A surgeon performing a surgery. Intention is not to kill, that the patient dies. He spent 14 hours trying to save the patient, standing, hurting his back. It's a noble action. But what happened? Patient died. So you can never judge an action per se. It's not possible. I'll put it the other way. A person is dressed like Adi Shankaracharya, sitting under a tree. Good action or bad action? All of you will say good. A fellow wants to, with due respects, I'm not referring to anybody, not making any comments. I'm only saying the possibility. He could be thinking of money making. He could be thinking of name, fame, nothing else. So it becomes a selfish action. So it's not what you do in life that matters. It's how you do it, why you do it, that makes it right, wrong, good, bad. That is why, see, Shakespeare, he says in the Hamlet, the very famous portion. Incidentally, I did talk to you about the book on symbolism. There's another book, it's called Select English Poems, a small collection of poems that Swamiji put together. Each poem is a masterpiece. It gives you a very useful message. Even children can understand. So simple. So in that collection is a piece of literature from the Hamlet. Polonius advised to Leotus. Polonius, a minister, was advising his son who was about to go abroad for higher studies. And he gives a lot of practical wisdom in that piece. But what I'm referring to is the end portion of that advice. He says, this above all. All that he said. And then he says, this above all. To thine own self be true. To thine own self be true, and it must follow as night the day. Thou canst not then be false to any man. So what is most important in a human being's life is to be true to his own conscience. In other words, everybody knows more or less what is right, what is wrong. You know it. You know you have to exercise. Don't you know that? Then what happens? I can't listen to my own conscience. I know I shouldn't eat junk food, but I eat it. Why? Not listening to my conscience. So if only we learn to use or listen to our own conscience, he says you can never be false. You are honest, you are faithful, you are a sensible human if you listen to your own conscience. So he says, you know best what your intentions are. Nobody else can judge you. You are the best judge of yourself. So he says, be true to that. And then even you're killing, you're not bound because your intention is not to do that action, but you're doing it because it's your duty. So that is what he's saying. Such a person who does not have an egoistic notion is not bound. He actually kills not. He's not killed. The surgeon has not killed the patient. He has only done his duty. The patient lost his life. It's not his fault. He's not bound by that action. But a murderer who intends to hurt, who intends to kill for his own sake, now he will be tainted. He will be bound and will have to face the consequence of that action. He continues.
Jnanam yeyam parignyata trividha karma chodana karanam karma karteti trividha karma sangraha Jnanam yeyam parignyata trividha karma chodana karanam karma karteti trividah karma sangraha.
Here is a further dissection of action. He says, knowledge, known, knower are the threefold impulse to action, while instrument, action, actor are the threefold constituents of action. Like I did say, these are all technical terms, and you don't have to be really concerned about it. And if we cross this 18th verse, we've crossed the most difficult portion of the text. Because from now on, from the 19th onwards, he's only going to analyze. You say, remember we talked about knowing your personality. In fact, this part of the Gita, from the 19th verse on, he tells us how to analyze our own personality based on the three gunas, sattva, rajas, tamas. So, here is the final dissection of action. He says, to accomplish or prompt or motivate action, what do you need? Trividha. Trividha, threefold. What? Karma chodana, impulse, incentives. What are they? Knower, a subject who has an impulse to act. I want to do this. And you must know. There is something known, jnayam. There is an object that you want to achieve. And you must have the knowledge to achieve it. See, for example, a potter, person who knows how to create a pot. He has a pot in mind. I must create this pot. And he has the knowledge of pot making. So these three you need to be able to act. See, if you're not interested in making a pot, or you don't know such a thing as a pot to be made, and you don't know how to make it, why would you act? So these are the three impulses that prompt you, motivate you to act. And then to execute action, to actually do it, he says there are three constituents, which we have already discussed earlier in the 14th verse, where he gave us the 5 constituents. Here he talks about 3. And what are they? Karta, actor, the performer of action. Karanam, instrument. You remember we talked about the instruments and the various functions. You need an instrument and you must actually act. Suppose you have an idea and do not perform, you still don't get the result. So he says 3 impulses that will prompt you to act and 3 constituents of action that will enable you to achieve. So continuing the potter example. So the potter has a pot in mind to create and he knows the art of pot making. But then you need a person to make the pot. See, the person who makes the pot may not have the jnana. Like when you're learning driving, there's a person who knows how to drive, teaching you, but you are actually driving the car. You may not know how to drive the car, not yet. So, yet you are driving. So he says, there is a person making the pot and he needs an instrument. Now without the instrument, how do you make it? You need the potter's wheel. So you need the instrument and then you actually create the pot. Now, like I said, it's a further dissection of action which you don't have to worry about because these factors become important when we analyze the personality. That's why he's brought it here. He's only saying, look, action is not simple. There's so much to analyze in action. And what we'll be studying from tomorrow is the 7 aspects of action. One we've already completed. Relinquishment is something we've already done. That's one aspect of action. But there are 6 other aspects which we will be studying. And based on these 6 aspects of action, which is very interesting to know how you fare as a personality based on this analysis. We'll take it up tomorrow. Thank you very much.